A Bit of a Head Scratcher by u/Zesty Cheese. My daughter was complaining of a headache this morning, so I gave her some Tylenol. She was otherwise acting completely normal, so I didn't think there was anything going on other than wanting to stay home from daycare. I ended up getting a call at around 12:30 saying that she wasn't feeling well, and so I left work early and brought her home. She went straight to bed when we got here and slept for a couple of hours. When she woke up from her nap, she felt really warm, and so I wanted to check her temperature. I hadn't used the thermometer in a couple of weeks, and I wasn't sure where I actually saw it last. I went to her bathroom and there it was on the edge of the counter. I know it wasn't there this morning, as I had gone in there to get her Tylenol just before we left for the day. Also, I gave both kids a shower before bed last night and would have moved it into the drawer if it was on the counter so it wouldn't get knocked off and broken. What was there last night was my son's toy watch stuck to the counter by soap. It left a rusty-colored mark and the thermometer was literally on top of the stain. Nobody would have moved it while I was at work because my husband leaves about half an hour before me, and I was home by 1, and he didn't get home until after 4.
A Different Conductor by Principessa Eboli. I'm in college studying music. I was in orchestra rehearsal today, and the guy conducting this concert, we'll call him Dr. F, raised his baton to begin a piece. My part starts out with an extended passage of soft pizzicato, so nothing I have to concentrate super hard on. I did look down at my music for the space of probably 10 to 15 seconds to be sure of what I was playing. I looked up, and at the podium conducting us was not Dr. F, but one of the student conductors whom we'll call Joe. Dr. F was standing at the back of the hall observing. My mind quickly pieced together what was happening. Dr. F must have asked Joe to conduct a run of the piece so he could watch and listen. But the problem is, I never heard him say anything to Joe before we started playing, and I clearly saw Dr. F cue in and start the piece. Now, the room we rehearse in is a smallish concert hall, with a stage in front, and then rows of theater-style seats all the way up and back. To get to the podium from where Joe was sitting before, one would either have to climb over several rows of seats, or walk to the end of the row, down some stairs, and back across to the center of the room. Dr. F was all the way in the back, so he would have had to walk to the edge of the room, all the way up the stairs, and back towards the center. Now, I'm not saying this was impossible. Dr. F could have silently communicated to Joe to take over. Joe climbed over the seats and grabbed the baton, and Dr. F made it to the back during the few seconds I was looking down. But it seems very highly unlikely to me, thinking about the layout of the room and the logistics and how rehearsals are run. Nothing really freaky, just a weird moment in time for me.
I Think My Dog Glitched by u/Unlikely Public 55. First of all, sorry about my English if it's not perfect. English isn't my native language, but I will try to make this understandable. This happened to me today, and after a couple of hours of trying to find a logical explanation for this, I came to a conclusion that I can't. Later, I remembered reading these glitch stories from Reddit some time ago, so I thought I could make my first Reddit post and share this event. Here's some background information to make this a bit more clearer. I'm a 20-year-old guy still living with my family, Mom, Dad, little sister, and our dog, which I will call Molly. Molly is a Newfoundland dog that loves winter and spends most of the days, and even nights, in our backyard sleeping and chilling in the thick snow. Today afternoon, I was home alone and Molly was sleeping in the snowy backyard like always. Suddenly I remembered that in the morning, I promised my dad to pick up groceries before he comes home from work. It was already 4 p.m., about half an hour before my dad usually comes home. I grabbed my keys and looked outside of our living room window to see Molly still peacefully sleeping in the snow. I thought about letting her sleep there since I would be away only for half an hour. But then I decided to take her inside to get some water and food. I opened the door and called her to come in, only to see the most disappointed dog face ever. Newfies really love the freezing cold air. I finally managed to lure her in with some snacks and then locked the door. I was about to leave and walk through the hallway to the front door, and Molly followed me all the way looking extremely sad to be left alone. I told her that I would be back in a minute and slowly closed the door, still talking to Molly as the gap fully closed. Last sight of Molly's snowy paws stick to my mind, and I remember being irritated, thinking that I have to dry the whole house with a towel after all that snow has melted to the floor. I started walking towards the car and immediately saw my dad driving into the yard. I waited outside my car as he parked and got out of his car. He told me he had a bit of a shorter day at work and seemed to be frustrated of me leaving at the last minute. I told him that I just took Molly inside and she will be waiting for him behind the door. She usually hears the car coming and going and then waits behind the door. I saw my dad opening the door as I was slowly driving away from our yard, expecting to see happy Molly welcoming him. Molly wasn't there, which was a bit weird to see, but I didn't think much of it. Dad stepped in and closed the door after giving me a seemingly surprised look from not meeting Molly right away. I left and thought to myself that Molly probably went to the kitchen to eat something or drink water and ran to my dad right after the door was closed. I was away for about half an hour, and when I got back inside, I saw Dad brushing Molly's fur in the living room. As I was putting groceries to the fridge, Dad asked me why I told him that Molly was inside. I quickly answered, saying that I took her inside right before I left, like I said before. And I didn't really understand what Dad was trying to ask me. He said that when he came in, he saw Molly barking behind the backyard door, waiting to be let in. We argued for quite some time, me telling him that I clearly remember Molly sitting behind the door with her snowy paws and sad face a minute before he got in, and him telling me that she was barking behind the closed door in our backyard. I then asked about the snow or water on the floor, and Dad said there was nothing on the floor, not even the smallest puddle. Some of you may know how badly wet snow can stick to long fur of a dog that's been rolling in it. Considering the size of an adult Newfoundland dog, the amount of snow melted into water looks like it's been poured from a bucket. I have no idea what happened. I wasn't intoxicated or significantly tired, and there's no mental illnesses in our family. Also, my dad never lies, and even if he did, what would have been the point in it? Was this a glitch in the Matrix?
D&D die just reappeared after losing it. Possible Fae Encounter? By by Squishy Waifu 26. So every Saturday, me and a group of friends get together to play some Dungeons and Dragons. While we were playing, I was getting really bad rolls and decided I would try to switch up my sets of dice. One set in particular, sky blue with purple numbers, caught my attention because it's a set I rarely use, but for some reason, my very lucky dice were rolling very unlucky today, so I chose the blue set. I remember testing my D20 die, and I rolled a 14, which was pretty good, so I stuck with that set. I got up for a couple seconds in the middle of a combat encounter to get some water. Keep in mind, I had not yet used that die for official rolls. I got back to my seat, and the D20 die was gone. I checked everywhere. I double-checked with my friends and boyfriend to see if anyone was messing with me, but they all seemed like they genuinely had no idea where the die went. I shook my dress to see if it was just stuck in it, but nothing. My dress has no pockets or ruffles. It's a very simple sundress. Literally checked everywhere. Never heard a die fall to the floor. We have hardwood floors, so I would have heard it. I was really disappointed, but eventually I just gave up looking for it because it was nowhere to be seen. Session went on till late at night, and still no sign of the die. I helped my boyfriend clean up the gaming table, put all of my dice away, went to the bathroom, double-checked the floors again, and then decided to leave. My boyfriend drove me home, and I had leaned the passenger seat back to rest a little on the way back to my house. We arrived, I put my seat back up, and as I was getting out of the car, I instinctively looked at my seat, and there it was. The sky blue D20 die sitting perfectly in the middle of the passenger seat. I was absolutely dumbfounded. Me and my boyfriend could not think of any explanation as to how it got there, because, as I said before, there was no way it was stuck in my dress. I don't know how my boyfriend would have gotten it to sit under me the entire ride home and have it survive me leaning the seat back without it falling through the seat crevice in the car. I honestly have no explanation. My logical side keeps telling me that maybe he's messing with me because I can't find a way to explain it. But he seems genuinely surprised too. I've very recently been reading a lot about witchcraft and Fae lately, and this has by far been one of the craziest things to happen to me that I just have no explanation for. I've been trying to be more in touch with nature and trying to understand the ways of the Fae. Could this be a Fae encounter? I know they like to mess around with us, but I'm just completely dumbfounded right now.
Seats Magically Aligned at John Mulaney's Show by u/Nanaruni. I went to see John Mulaney tonight. It was awesome. When the tickets were about to come out, my friend alerted me so we could buy the tickets together the second that they went on sale. It was just going to be me, my two friends, and my sister. And right before they went on sale, I told my friend, "Get 4 in a row, I'll pay you back." So she did. But then right after we bought it, I told my mom, and my mom said, "Wait, I want to go too. Buy me a ticket too." I went to go do it, but since they were a hot commodity, the seats on our row and directly behind us had been snatched up. The closest thing that I could get to us was a single seat caddy corner to us, aka the row behind us and one seat to the right. I went ahead and bought this seat because I figured my mom wouldn't mind it too much being the odd one out. My friends looked at my screen a couple times while I was doing this, and I lamented to them out loud about how the tickets were going fast and I just bought one on a different row. So, the show was today. I spent some time at dinner, a little anxious because I hadn't told my mom she wasn't sitting technically with us, and I was banking on her being cool with it, but planning to switch with her if I had to. I told her about it and she was cool with it. Whew. We get in line and distribute the physical tickets we printed. The friend holding them says, "Take the odd one out and give it to your mom." I look through them and see all seats are right next to each other, section 3, F1 to 5. I'm like, "Did you look at these? They're all the same row." She says, "Yeah, I looked. Here." Then goes to show me which one is on a different row. Then, she's confused because she sees the same thing that I do, 5 seats in a row. We are all baffled because we all remember them not being together. We were baffled all the way from being in line to being in our assigned seats and seeing, yep, what the fuck? We're all sitting together. I can literally picture the seat map and exactly where the odd seat should have been. The only thing I can think is they changed the ticket. But there would be no reason to do that because we put them under separate names. So why would they just switch some rando a row up? I have no screenshot of the ticket right when I bought it, so I can't prove that it was the seat I thought it was. My ticket now says the seat number that was on the printed ticket. Well, thank you, glitch gods. I'm just glad that nobody had to sit alone.
The Lost Return Trip by Prometheus is a Titan God. This happened about 25 years ago. Me and my friend, we'll call him Tom, we regularly went to a festival in the mountains of Pennsylvania every year. We camped out and had a small bonfire, etc. We enjoyed our favorite music from our favorite bands. We had a great time. We have been doing this for almost 10 years at this time. So, we were experts in prepping for driving 5 to 6 hours, setting up the campsite, doing the breaking down and leaving, etc. We stayed up late every night playing music and doing our nightly ritual of burning all paper trash and anything trash-wise that was non-toxic in the campfire so that there was less trash to clean up when we left. We jokingly called it combustibles and would yell or chant it as we would throw some on. Yeah, I know, we were young and dumb. This is important for later, by the way. At one point, one of us threw a buck or something on the fire, and it stunk. It burned an odd color and put off a lot of smoke. So much for non-toxic, I thought. Well, we both got a lungful and coughed, but we were fine. We didn't realize the time. It was almost 3, so I thought I was wound up to sleep. We planned to leave for home at like 5 a.m. to beat the traffic leaving. It was a very popular festival and was packed. So I said, why not pack up everything now and we can sleep in the car for an hour or so, then we can go. We packed up quickly, then, since I was driving, I said, let's leave now and get to a rest stop on the parkway, then sleep in the car if we are tired, avoiding traffic totally. For Tom, it was a no-brainer. He wasn't driving. He could just sleep on the way back till I was too tired, then we could switch. We got like 35 to 40 minutes on the parkway when I started to doze off at the wheel, swerving, almost killing us several times while Tom passed out sleeping in the passenger seat. So I woke him, say we need to switch or something. We came to a rest stop, decided to park, get cool drinks, and sleep in the car for a while. This is when it happens. Tom goes inside to get drinks and piss or something. The next thing I know, I am driving in 5-lane traffic an hour and a half away from home. I didn't wake up, as in open my eyes. My eyes were wide open, dry, like they weren't blinking. I didn't know where we were at first or what the fuck happened. I looked over at Tom. His eyes were wide open. I mean, like wide open, staring straight ahead. I yelled, "Tom, what happened? Where are we?" I got no response. I yelled Tom and hit him. He then slowly looked over at me, said what, in a slow way. He said, "Why are you waking me up?" I said, "You weren't sleeping." It took us the rest of the drive home to grasp what happened. We traveled a 4-hour span of road in less than 2 hours. We, at that time, had no memory of leaving the rest stop. I only faintly remember him coming back to the car. He, too, only vaguely recalls coming back to the car, so it wasn't because I was sleeping. He was awake in the rest stop, and he couldn't remember. Several other things were off. The CD player was on and had played through all of the songs and was stopped, meaning a CD was put in and was played right through the album and reached the end. We have no memory of that as well. We should have needed to stop for gas before that point, because when we left, I was low. We apparently either put gas in or traveled that entire way without hardly using any gas. And my brakes before were fine. Now they were grinding like metal on metal. We talked about it for years after. He is a hardcore skeptic of anything beyond his religion. He concluded we must have inhaled too much toxic smoke at the campsite, and I went into autopilot, driving while he slept. But I kept telling him he wasn't sleeping. He was in a trance, staring straight ahead with a frozen look on his face. I don't think it was aliens because it was a bright, sunny, clear day with lots of people around. A few years ago, we talked about it some more. He admitted to the fact that he wasn't sleeping. He was staring straight ahead when he came around. We started to remember more. I started to remember him getting back to the car and me insisting I was okay to drive because I had a cold drink, so we drove out of the rest stop. After that, it was fuzzy then. For him, that was all he would admit to remembering. But myself, I started to remember something that gives me goosebumps as I write this still. I remember nodding off, then being awakened by the sound of branches hitting the car, then the feeling of falling in the car. Then a hard splash, and seeing my friend convulsing from lack of air while waking up from being unconscious. Now, I need to say that at the time of this, I had no clue about quantum immortality, glitches in the Matrix, or the Mandela effect. It was the late 90s of my remembering, and the early middle 90s was when it actually occurred. I wanted to believe it was a false memory. So a few years back, I went on Google Earth, something that I didn't have back then. And when I traced the route after the rest stop, there is a huge bridge that crosses over a major river. And yes, if you look, it's possible, if someone drove off-road going fast enough, you would hit small trees and then a big drop into the water. Seeing this freaked me out bad. I sat back and say, gosh, I think we died. Then, a few years back, I learned about glitches and quantum immortality after having some major experiences. Then it made sense to me. We did switch realities. It explains everything. Why my brakes were suddenly bad, why little things were off. The other thing was many of my close friends changed personality. I wouldn't go into details, but it seemed like after that ride home, the world was different. Close friends weren't close anymore. I am a huge MacGyver fan, never missed an episode, and recently I was watching it online and saw 2 episodes that never existed before. Sure, I could have missed them, but I actually recorded them on VHS back then, collecting the episodes so I knew each one. Truly freaked me out. Big on mythology and my fellow titans, especially Prometheus. So an episode where Mac actually talks about Prometheus. Yeah, I would have remembered that. The truly disturbing thing was the empty look in my friend's face and eyes after his convulsing underwater. It was the same look I saw when I asked what had happened. Where are we? I still don't know what happened.
The Skyway by U/Skeets Data Droid. I don't go that much these days. However, when I was a kid, every Saturday in the summer months, my father and I would gather up our rods and tackle box, stop off to buy some night crawlers, and head down to the river and fish. The fish were always plentiful in the river, from bluegill, catfish, and the occasional black bass. We'd sit on this old fallen tree trunk, drink sodas, and munch on junk food for a few hours before packing it in. We return home and proceed to clean, pack, and freeze our catch for future meals. On one particular Saturday morning, however, things were a little bit off. A morning cloud cover promised to move on by mid-morning for a sunny afternoon, so we packed sunscreen to apply later once the sun came out. We got our worms as always and headed to the river. Thanks to the cloudy sky, the fish were more active than usual, and we had no trouble reeling them in, so much so that our bucket was filling up faster than usual. When, as predicted, the clouds began to disperse, and by noon, the sun was shining. As we readied to pack, a shadow overhead caught my attention. A bald eagle had taken up a roost in a tree by the river and was keeping his keen eye on us, and I happened to glance up and catch his vision. I was about to grab my father's attention when I happened to glance at the patch of sky peeking through the leaves just behind the eagle, and saw something very, very weird. The blue sky had a kind of grid overlaying it, similar to a graph paper, a kind of bluish cross hatching, not the same shade of blue as the sky, but rather a few shades darker. I stepped a few feet to my left to look at an unobstructed view of the sky, and it was clear blue, but stepping back under the canopy of trees. Grid. I pointed out to my father and he was positively gobsmacked, thinking that it might have been a spider's web perhaps, strung up between branches, and he moved closer and couldn't see anything there. Feeling very weirded out by this anomaly, we decided to go get some lunch at Burger King, and then headed home. This event happened in the 90s, long before talks of glitches. However, that event has stuck with me, and I now believe that it was what experienced that day. Some kind of glitch that allowed us to see behind the veil of our reality for just that one section of the sky. What do y'all think? What are the odds of this happening? By u/Snuggles and Cuddles. I'm a 26-year-old male, and this story begins after I finish working out at my local gym. Usually after my workouts, I go into the sauna for about 20 minutes just to stretch and for general health purposes. Before I go into the sauna, I put all of my things inside of a locker, gym bag, jacket, and shoes, and I lock the locker with my Dudley lock, which I think is a very common style of lock. Now, I don't remember the exact locker number that I used to store my things. However, I just kept in mind the general area of which the locker I was using. This detail is important for later. Now, I finish up at the sauna and everything is pretty normal until this part. I go to my locker, unlock it, and to my surprise, none of my stuff is in it, and someone else's gym bag, jacket, and boots were in there. I was surprised, and I thought someone stole my things and replaced it with their things, but that wouldn't make any sense, because then I could just wait for that person to come back and confront him. So, I looked to the right and realized that the locker next to me is also using a Dudley lock. I try unlocking it, thinking that maybe this one is mine, But after 4 tries of putting in the code, there is no luck. Until the 5th, where I finally unlock it and obviously see all of my stuff there. Is this a glitch in the Matrix? Or do I have an undiscovered talent for unlocking locks? Hello everyone, it's your creepy sister here. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate each and every one of you. But I would also like to thank my amazing patrons, my top tippers, and my dearest channel members. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it with all of my heart. If you want to support the channel further, you could also choose to become a patron, a tipper, or a channel member. But remember, it's appreciated, but never a requirement. I would also like to announce that we have merch now. The link is in the description of the video, along with all my other social media links, like my Discord server, Twitter, Instagram, and others. You can connect with me and send your stories there. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and comments are highly appreciated. And remember, your fear feeds me.